Hello and welcome to Opening Your Eyes Episode 2, The Hidden Secrets of Volunteers. My name is Ryan.
And my name is Jacob. Today we will be discussing the difference between volunteers in nonprofit and for-profit organizations. We will do this by discussing what they do and which one of the two has more influence.
Before we dive in, what exactly are volunteers in an organization?
Well, Grand Canyon University provided an explanation in a 2012 paper about stakeholders and volunteers. In the section Volunteers as Stakeholders, GCU describes them as volunteers serve in many non-paid capacities with nonprofit organizations by contributing time, energies, and/or talents. This can best be summarized as volunteers contribute to organizations by sometimes giving their ideas or their strengths to make the company stronger as a whole. In the same article written by GCU, they explain that a volunteer is also a stakeholder.
Interesting. I thought that volunteers just perform basic tasks like getting coffee and file papers. But in the end, you mentioned a stakeholder. What is a stakeholder in an organization?
Well, in the same GCU paper, but in the introduction paragraph, GCU explains a stakeholder as a stakeholder is typically described as a person, group, or organization that has direct or indirect interest in an organization. These individuals or groups can affect or be affected by the organization's actions, objectives, and policies. This can best be summarized as stakeholders are a person or organization that has an interest in an organization. They could be anything from a supplier to a customer.
Wow, so crazy. I didn't realize that a customer and a supplier are both identified as someone so important as a stakeholder. But before we start to compare a nonprofit and a not-for-profit, can you please explain what a nonprofit is?
Sure, a nonprofit can best be described by Indiana University Lilly Family School of Philanthropy and reported by learningtogive.org. The definition goes as follows. Nonprofit organizations are organized for a public or mutual benefit other than generating profit for owners or investors. They can take a variety of forms from informal neighborhood associations, soup kitchens, local churches, or traditional charities serving the poor, to labor unions, self-help groups, or museums, hospitals, and large universities. This means that a nonprofit is something that helps people without taking the money to the owners or any head honcho.
Alright, we have one side, but what is a for-profit organization?
Well, Nordwick University best describes a for-profit organization on their website online.nordwick.edu. In the first section named Purpose, it states, while for-profit organizations may have a variety of goals, the primary mission is to generate profit and develop effective products and services that are valuable to consumers. This explains that for-profit organizations have one goal, which is only to make money. So all the money generated goes to the owners, shareholders, or head honchos.
Alright, now that we understand the difference between a for-profit and a non-profit, what is the purpose of a volunteer in a non-profit organization?
For most non-profit organizations, volunteers are an integral part of how they function, what keeps it to continue working. If the non-profits didn't have their massive volunteer teams, the non-profits wouldn't be as massive as they are today, and they would just be inefficient.
Interesting. But is there any non-profit that captures the idea that you just proposed?
Yes, and the perfect example of my point would be the Red Cross. As you probably know, the Red Cross is a humanitarian non-profit that provides shelter, food, health, and mental health services, and they distribute supplies to everyone affected by either a natural disaster or any unforeseen event. Their volunteering exploits are best explained by the website. Explains it as the volunteers getting trained by volunteers who are then responsible for the blood drives and humanitarian help. The Red Cross even sending volunteers into people's houses to teach them about fire safety and installing smoke detectors. The volunteers make up about 90% of the Red Cross, which is about 372,000 people. Without it, the Red Cross wouldn't be the health and safety giant it is today.
Oh, I didn't realize that Red Cross is mainly volunteers. I can't believe that volunteers go to disaster sites and people's homes to help them day to day. Well, what is the purpose for a volunteer in a non-profit organization?
Well, technically there are no volunteers in a for-profit organization since the fair label Labor Standard Act states that employees may not volunteer their services to for-profit companies. So there legally can't be volunteers in a for-profit company.
Okay, well that was not what I was expecting. But let me reword the question. What is the purpose of interns in a for-profit organization?
For some for-profit companies, they are encouraged to create and pitch ideas. Some companies encourage interns to find and harness current social media trends to help the company succeed. So in some cases, the interns are unpaid marketing teams, and sometimes an internship could be developing skills, forming connections, and they work with someone in the company on a project.
Wow, I didn't realize that an intern did more than just get coffee and file papers. Just crazy. But is there any company that captures the point?
Yes, there is, and it's Puma. And if you didn't know, Puma is a shoe company that creates shoes for current and aspiring athletes. Puma has its very own internship and website, which explains that interns are required to develop the Puma paid creative team, find and make new content. It's done by either making ads, finding social media trends and creators, and create brand new concepts.
That is just insane that Puma's interns are an unpaid marketing team. But I have one final question. Based on the information you've gotten so far, who do you think has more influence, interns or volunteers?
Based solely on the information given so far, I believe that interns have more influence than volunteers.
Why is that?
This is because Puma's interns are encouraged to contribute and pitch new ideas to Puma, while the Red Cross volunteers are just soldiers marching in a battle against humanitarian issues and disasters.
That's very interesting. Honestly, I think I agree with you on that point, that the volunteers are soldiers and interns are more like unpaid idea factories.
Well, that's about all the time we have left, folks. But don't forget to go to patreon.com/openeyes. And if you contribute $5, you can access unaired podcasts and TED Talks. Fred Talks.
There's only one other Fred Talk on this Patreon page. Thank you for tuning in to the podcast, and we'll see you soon. I don't know when, but we'll see you.
Thank you and goodbye.